let's start with creating the basic stuff from scratch. Reactive web app. Let's call it masterclass. So module blank. We don't want anything to start with. Okay. And now let's create a flow for blocks and a flow for screens. Okay. Create a new block. Well, let's call it my component. Okay, and then the first thing I usually do when creating a block is create a container which will serve as a wrapper for everything. And if the block is called my component, I will use the name my component for the CSS as well. So my component. And here we are. This will be the wrapper for everything. Okay, so let's put some content areas in our component. We will have a header and a body. So I'll just drag two placeholders here. This will be the header. And this will be the content. Okay, I'll just put a wrapper here. And I'll put the content inside. So in the future with the CSS, this will help me manage the padding when we get to the CSS part. So this is the container for my component. I'll just copy paste here, and this will be my component header. This will be my component body, and this will be my component body content. Okay, so my component header, my component body, and inside my component body we have my component body content. So this will be the feature structure of the HTML of our component. Let's now handle the input parameters. So input parameters allows us to customize the behavior of our component. So let's call isOpen. This will be a boolean, it's not mandatory. This will determine if our component is collapsed or not. There's one extended class input parameter which all components usually have, extended, and this is very common on all UI kits, OutSystems UI and others. And this way we can add classes to the wrapper of our component and customize the look and feel. This is not mandatory as well. And extended class, let's start with this one. So extended class, we can use it here. I'll just put this a bit larger. Okay. Like this. If the extended class is not empty, we will append its value to this. So if I put potatoes, it will be my component space and then potatoes. If not, empty string does nothing. So this will be the first one. And now let's see the isOpen. So the isOpen is a boolean. And one of the things I usually do in my components is I pass on the value of the input parameter as a data attribute. So data isOpen, and I will pass on here the value of isOpen. So this is the way I usually pass on the input parameters. Another input parameter we might have is, for example, width. So width, it's not mandatory as well. And it's very common to have predefined values to use as input parameters. So, and for those, we have static entities. So I will add here a static entity. I'll call it width because we'll have values in this static entity that will be used in this input parameter. So this is like enumerables, if you are aware of that in high code in other languages. We have some properties here we don't need some of them. We'll just need, let me see, the ID and the order, but the ID will not be an integer. I will put text, and the order will be can be an integer. Okay, so let's add some records. Okay, width. Let's use small, medium, large. So small. Oh no, this is the identifier, so we don't need that here. I'll need here. So small, medium, and we'll have a large as well. And we will have a full. It's pretty common as well to have such things. Okay, small, medium, large, full. The ID is text. I kept the order here because in the future, if you want to add another one, we can, well, place it in the beginning, in the end, and we'll use the order to do that. Okay, and then here on the width, so the data type is the identifier of my static entity. So width identifier, and the default value, I'd say, is the full. Okay, so default values is if it's not populated by the developer when using the component, it will assume this. The extended class is empty and is open. By default is false. Well, being empty would be the false as well, but yeah. Usually the extended class is the last one. Oh, I can't. Okay, yeah. So is open with an extended class. Okay. And here we have the is open, and I'm missing this as well. Width. So this way I am passing on to the HTML as data attributes all the values from the input parameters and the extended class as well. There's one particular input parameter that all my components usually have, which is called variation. So variation, I'll just put this here. So variation allows us to customize the behavior and the look and feel of the component. So in the future, when we create something, we are not fully aware of everything that it can do and all the variations it might have in the future. So this will allow us in the future to extend and to improve the component. So it's an open string, so you can do pretty much whatever we want with it. We will be able to customize JavaScript, CSS, everything. So it's like an open input parameter that allows us to extend and improve the behavior of the component 6 months from now, 1 year from now. And again, this will be a data attribute. Variation, yeah. I'll just put this in alphabetical order. So is open, variation, data width, and the 4 input parameters are here as well. So no mandatory. I usually don't like mandatory input parameters, so the developer can just drag and it's fully functional. Okay, now let's test the component. I'll add a screen here. So screen 1, anonymous. And I'll add the block here as well. My component, some content with an expression. I have an action here. So let's say between 15 and 30. And for the content, just full text. Okay, just to test this. What's this warning here? Exceptions. Okay, yeah, I'll handle this later. And publish. So let's test it. Okay. And here we have the component. Header, body, content. And we have the data attributes here. Is open false with full. Let's make a change. So now we have a second. I will say is open true, and I'll say that the width here is the medium one. I'll publish. And then let's go back to the browser, refresh. I can take this part out, I just don't like to see it. So we have now two instances of the same component. On this one, data is open false, data width full, data is open true, data width medium. So with this, we can change the look and feel of our component using CSS, and we can change its behavior using JavaScript. So we have access to these properties and we can act accordingly. Let's go back to Service Studio and recap everything we've done. So we created a block and we added input parameters, we added placeholders, different types of input parameters, Boolean, text, a static entity, and another text, which is the extended class, pretty common. So the static entity, I usually do like this. So the identifier is a string. I will pass on the identifier, which we are using here. I will pass on as a data attribute. Oh, there's one thing I would like to, which is this. So we get this with capital F and capital T, so false and true. But if we want to use it in JavaScript, it's better to always use the lower letter. So I always do like this. This will get me the true and the false with lower letters. And then we pass all the input parameters to the wrapper. And this is something pretty common as well. So a wrapper around the full component, and everything should be inside this wrapper. So placeholders, input parameters, I'll just add here to avoid this. This is about the exception. I will add a flow here. Just call it common. And so that I will say it's all the exceptions. And the exception handler is this one. Okay, so this will catch all the exceptions. I won't talk about this. This is not the stuff that this channel is dedicated to, which is Frontend. And that's it for the HTML part. See you on the next videos. Bye-bye.